The force of will. How to harness willpower. All life is suffering. These words may sound harsh to some, but this is the very first of the Four Noble Truths taught in Buddhism. All life is suffering. But why did Buddha teach such a negative thing? Could there be some truth to it? For most people, a little self-introspection can pretty much reveal the suffering buried under plain sight. Think about it. When was the last time your face glowed like a 5-year-old? When was the last time you were living on the edge, fearless and free? When was the last time you gave out everything you had and then more? When was the last time you voluntarily faced a great challenge and came out a victor? While we are all inspired by heroic tales, how many people do you know who actually live on the edge? The cold truth is that our world today is plagued by comfort, and even though most people are physically at ease, emotionally they are all over the place. We are suffering our comforts. Friedrich Nietzsche, a German philosopher, predicted that something like this would happen in the modern times. He believed that ours would be a chaotic world full of cultural preferences, a mess, an overload of personal choices. He believed that the modern world would be occupied by men and women who turned their backs on challenging ideals and somehow felt they were content. These people would have a banal existence. They would do everything in their powers to limit excesses of joy or sorrow. Their concern would be the trivial and the narcissistic, and so they would live lives of timid mediocrity, fooling themselves that they are happy. They would buy into what Nietzsche described as the religion of comfort. Together, they would create a world that shies from the risk of striving for greatness, a world that shuns higher values and celebrates the mundane. These passive men and women were Nietzsche's greatest fear. They would look at the fiery potential of great men, of beautiful lives fully lived, and have no desire even to pursue it. They'd merely blink. Certainly, Nietzsche couldn't have been more right. This predicament is undeniably our own. Our culture is getting cushy and soft, and more people are trying to hack their way around obstacles rather than barging through them. It is rare these days to witness men and women with strong work ethics and the old school knuckle draggers who accomplish whatever they set their minds to. It is these extraordinary individuals and their hardcore mindsets that are going to be the object of our study for this episode. These uncommon people, I have found, share a similar mindset, a mindset through which they don't just thrive when things get hard, but intentionally seek out difficult challenges to keep their engines on fire. So while most people are running away from difficult circumstances and ordeals, these oddballs are running after them. How, I used to wonder, could a person like me, who was equally a victim of the culture of comfort, could harness the sheer force of will that I admired in these people? Is willpower itself a skill one can build? In the river of life, says an ancient yoga text, two currents flow in opposite directions. One, on the surface, flows towards sorrow, towards sickness, toward bondage. The other, beneath it, flows toward happiness, health, and freedom. This image suggests that if we stay at the surface and do nothing, life will still take us somewhere, but not where we want to go. Staying in one place is not an option. To catch the deep current that leads to freedom, we have to swim and swim hard, against the flow of every conditioned response. We have to swim upstream. And this swimming against the flow is in fact what willpower is. The reason some people seem to have more willpower is simply because they've had more experience swimming against the flow, and you don't. If you're going to learn how to tap into our own reservoirs of willpower, we first need to clearly pin down the biggest hurdle in our way, and that is our own mind. Think about the last time you tried to do something difficult and then gave up. If you carefully analyze it, you will find that just before you gave up, Your mind was bubbling up all sorts of excuses and complaints about why you shouldn't be doing what you were doing. The reason I can say this confidently is because it is not just your problem. This is exactly how the human mind is wired. And this is the reason why willpower can literally be bottled down to developing a new skillful relationship with the opposing forces of your mind. In order to walk on any surface, you need friction, and the friction is literally the surface trying to resist your motion. Without this opposing force of friction, it's just not possible to walk at all. Likewise, without mental friction, you cannot achieve anything worth achieving. The mental friction, the opposing forces of the mind, including all its cribbing and whining, are actually the support over which you learn how to climb. A swimmer can swim without water. A surfer can surf without a wave. In order to move forward, we need a force that pushes us back. There is no forward without a backward, no strengths without weaknesses, no positives without negatives. Therefore, in order to deliberately hone your willpower muscle, the first step is to deliberately seek challenges that are way out of your comfort zone. The key word here is deliberately. We are not hoping for the storm to come our way. We are intentionally trying to seek one out and volunteer to face it. The more difficult and bizarre the challenge, the better. It is more thrilling, for example, to sign up for a full fucking marathon than committing to drinking a glass of water every day. Don't sell yourself short. Go big. Just deciding to do something crazy, like climbing a big-ass mountain, or going on an adventurous solo trip in an unknown place, or perhaps signing for cooking classes when you've never seen the insides of a kitchen, will leave an aftertaste in your mind. Even the anticipation of a decent challenge is enough to turn your life upside down. This challenge is the opposing force against which you will learn how to push forward, and in so doing, strengthen your willpower. Remember, willpower is essentially the willingness to go in spite the discomfort. So you need some challenge to induce that discomfort and then deliberately push past it. The second step is to break down this crazy goal into actionable steps so that you don't drown in confusion. When things get really hard, which they will, not knowing what to do next can be a serious disadvantage, and an excuse that your mind will use to make you give up as soon as there is an opportunity. So, if say your crazy goal is to learn how to speak Spanish in 6 months, or to do 10,000 push-ups in a month, break it down to weekly and daily goals. The point is to create a controlled, uncomfortable space. We need to avoid as much variables as we can to get the very best out of our efforts. Once you have an actionable plan, it makes it way less complicated. The third and the most important step is where the real work begins. If, according to your action plan, your goal for today is to run 2 kilometers, then you literally go fucking run them. But isn't that the very problem? You may be wondering, Rajat, if I could actually complete my goals, I wouldn't be here listening to you. I completely get you. But you need to understand that by very definition, willpower is the capacity to keep moving in spite the discomfort. And if you want to enhance your willpower, you need an uncomfortable setting to practice in. So if you don't like how it feels, I want you to understand that is exactly the point. You're not supposed to like how it feels and still conjure the will to keep moving. What we have done in the previous 2 steps is to create a controlled, uncomfortable space. Now your great challenge is crushed down to small, well-defined challenges. It is not vague or airy-fairy anymore. Now the question comes, how do you do it? Well, start by recognizing this. What is in your way? No, really, how do you feel when that goal is in front of you? Does your mind come up with excuses as to why you should stay in your bed instead of going out and completing your 2 kilometers? Buddha once said that if you want to master the mind, you need to learn how to oppose a negative wave of thought with a positive way of thought. The very reason that there is resistance in your mind is because you're trying to go somewhere, and this is good news. Whatever obstacle is in your way has its source in the mind, and instead of running away, I'm asking you to barge forward and fight it. The beauty of this approach is that the moment you confront that mental hurdle that is holding you, that very moment you will find that you will be able to move forward and back to the task at hand. This is the direct evidence of the fact that the obstacle course is not out there in the real world, but just in your mind. You can discover this for yourself. It is empowering to realize that the forces that keeps us back from doing all the wild stuff that we want to do are sourced just in our heads, because then it's in our own hands to do whatever the hell we want. Once you try this approach over and over again, you will find this out for yourself. Listen to this very carefully. What we are doing here is that we're using all the discomfort and all the mental excuses as a trigger to stay in the game as opposed to giving up. We are changing the habitual response from running away to running after, from giving up to giving more. So when you're doing your work and it gets uncomfortable, this discomfort becomes the very trigger to focus even harder and keep doing your work. Every time you respond the mental hurdles with fight instead of flight, they will get less and less potent. This is the very heart of this method. When a mental hurdle arises, recognize it. This is your call to fight. Now oppose it with getting back to work. Focus again with even more ardor. This is not going to feel good. It hurts. But this is what it takes to build willpower. Repeat this process again and again, and through application, make this mindset your very own. Keep crushing all the opposing forces of your mind, one after another, by responding to stay in the game. Respond with performance. Soon, you will find yourself completing your daily challenges one by one. Days will turn into weeks, and after a grueling process, you will win. This may at times look like self-torture, but if you actually do it, you will experience how good you feel when you become this new person who can do all this seemingly difficult stuff. No one knows what a human being is capable of. The problem with most people is that they think that they know. They think they know all about their capabilities, and this is their biggest error. I'm not here to tell you anything about your capabilities. I just want to plant a doubt in your head and make you wonder about your true potential. What if you actually give yourself a crazy challenge? And what if, using the process given here, you're actually able to accomplish it? Wouldn't that be amazing? Hey guys, I'm Rajat, your host, and you're listening to Profundus. If you like the content of these episodes, please hit the like button and follow me. You can also find me on Instagram at profundus.in. I really appreciate you listening to this. Thank you and have a nice day.